The protein powder you buy at supplement stores or pharmacies is still generating a lot of controversy. Is it necessary? Does it harm my health? Does it not? Does it contain dangerous substances? How much should I take? When should I take it? How is it made? I'm sure you've heard a friend, a family member, or even a health professional talk about how protein, especially protein powder, can harm your kidneys or damage your liver. Is all of this true? Fortunately, these prejudices and myths are being heard less and less, and today we have plenty of evidence to clear up the doubts I just mentioned. So you're going to join me while I explain what happens in your body when you consume? Could we say it's the most widely consumed supplement in the world? Whey protein, popularly known as protein powder, because of the way it's dispensed. You'll see that far from being just a supplement for gym goers, whey protein is actually closer to being a food than a supplement. Really. And it has more than useful applications for most of us. Whey protein comes from a part of milk called whey or lactose serum, which to the naked eye is a yellowish water-soluble liquid. Honestly, it doesn't look very appetizing. Cow's milk protein is made up of 80% casein, a type of protein, and 20% whey protein, which really isn't a single protein, but rather a group of proteins classified by their solubility in milk serum. Actually, whey protein is something you get during the cheese making process. And until just a few decades ago, it was simply discarded, since all its uses were unknown. Imagine that. And to really understand how the whey protein that you finally see in that brightly colored container with very strong people on it is made, you have to understand how cheese is made. You'll see. When a coagulant, a coagulating substance like rennin or quinine, is artificially added to milk, curd forms on one side and whey or milk serum on the other. On the other hand, curd is rich in another very popular protein that we've already mentioned, which is casein, and we'll talk about it in another video, if you want. Meanwhile, whey is rich in different high biological value proteins, which are exactly the ones that make up whey protein, which you later see in the container as powder. Later, through industrial processes of filtration and dehydration, these whey proteins are turned into dehydrated powder, which you add to yogurts, to milk itself, to water, to the enteral supplements you receive in the hospital, and so on and so on and so on. The concentration of proteins in the supplement in question and its designation will depend on the filtration and hydrolysis processes. Isolate, concentrate, hydrolyze it. Whey protein, although almost all whey protein comes from cows, any milk-producing animal can generate whey protein. Buffaloes, camels, llamas, and yes, also humans. Now, is whey protein the best protein out there, far above all the others? To answer this question, we have to use tools that assess the quality of a protein. The most commonly used method today is called the Protein Digestibility Corrected Amino Acid Score method, which evaluates both the amount of essential amino acids in a protein source, which are, I remind you, those that your body cannot synthesize and therefore you have to obtain from external sources. It also evaluates the digestibility of these amino acids, meaning how well you absorb them. The maximum protein digestibility corrected amino acid score is 1, which would be a perfect protein source, we could say, in the previously mentioned terms. As we can see, both whey protein concentrate and isolate, which differ in the amount of protein, basically have a protein digestibility corrected amino acid score of 1. The best, on par with whole milk, chicken, or egg. They are closely followed by plant sources such as soy or pea protein isolate. Therefore, whey protein is an excellent quality protein with very, very good digestibility, but it is not the best, nor is it irreplaceable. Although on the other hand, that argument that protein powder is a fake protein and that chicken protein is the good one doesn't work for me either. That argument is invalid, and there is ample evidence to support this. Whey protein is not anything more than the best protein found in milk in an easy-to-take format. Is that all? Is it irreplaceable or necessary? No. Is it useful sometimes? Well, of course. And now, precisely, we're going to see in which of those situations whey protein can really help you. You might know the first two, but stay until the end because the last 5 are going to surprise you. First, hypertrophy in the context of a caloric surplus. This is, we could say, the most common use of whey protein to help the muscle grow. For the muscle cell to grow, a process called muscle protein synthesis or muscle protein synthesis has to occur, and this is stimulated by whey protein, and specifically by some amino acids present in it, such as leucine. First of all, a series of anabolic proteins are stimulated, which together we call mTOR. Although for this to happen, you need to be in a caloric surplus, that is, to have an energy surplus to use for building muscle. And in addition to this, you also need a mechanical stimulus, which is strength training with weights, with your body weight, with resistance bands, with TRX, however you want, but strength training. Remember that without physical exercise, you can take all the whey protein you want. It won't be used to build muscle, but rather to generate glucose in the liver or to be oxidized. Unused amino acids are oxidized for energy, though they produce less energy compared to fats or carbohydrates. So remember, if you take whey protein, at least do strength training, otherwise you'll just be wasting your money. Second point, avoid muscle loss on very low calorie diets. Another lesser known function of whey protein is to prevent you from losing muscle when you're on an aggressive diet. If you're overweight or obese and want to lose 10, 15 or 20 kilos, the best thing you can do is increase the protein content in your diet. And nutrition is the most important thing, followed by countless other factors. This is because protein helps reduce appetite, it's hard to turn into fat, and it also preserves your lean mass. In every weight loss diet, I repeat, in every weight loss diet, you also lose muscle. Approximately a quarter of the weight lost is fat-free mass. It's muscle, bone, and fat-free mass. That's the concept. And this is bad, it's terrible, and it's also misleading. It's misleading because you might be very happy about losing weight, but up to a third or a quarter of that lost weight is muscle. And terrible because it's well known that with less muscle, it's easier in the future to regain the weight you've lost, or even more. So the stricter the diet you're following, the more you should add protein to it. The problem is that when we're talking about very high amounts of protein, like 2 grams per kilogram of body weight per day, it's very difficult to get it only from food. And this is where whey protein is very convenient because it's easy to take. It's not essential. It's a processed food or a very convenient supplement because it provides a lot of protein in a small volume and in a liquid form, which is naturally less filling. For example, you can drink a glass with 40 grams of whey protein without even flinching. But to get the same amount from chicken breast, you'd have to eat about 200 grams of chicken breast. If you're hungry, this will be easy, but if not, it won't be. Third point, avoid sarcopenia at older ages. If you're like most people, you'll identify protein as a supplement for strong young people who go to the gym, have good muscle mass, and are in their 20s or 30s. But what if I told you that whey protein supplementation makes more sense for older people than for very young people? My arguments are the following. Pay attention. As you get older, you develop what's known as anabolic resistance, which means you need a stronger anabolic stimulus each time, to gain or simply not to lose muscle mass. As the years go by, it gets harder for us not to lose muscle. This is linked to another fact. As we get older, we also lose our appetite, and often we have less desire for protein-rich foods. Other times, this is compounded by multiple medications that decrease appetite, or by mood disorders that also reduce it, or other conditions or dental issues that restrict eating solid foods. The logical conclusion is that many older adults don't even come close to meeting the recommended protein intake, which accelerates the loss of muscle mass and makes us reach the dreaded sarcopenia sooner. Sarco means flesh and penia means deficiency, so deficiency of flesh, that is muscle deficiency. Therefore, a deficit of muscle mass is related to more falls, more hospitalizations, less strength, and a higher risk of mortality. Fourth point. Antioxidant effect. Whey protein has an interesting but lesser known antioxidant effect. It contains an amino acid in considerable quantity called cysteine, which is a precursor of glutathione, one of the greatest antioxidants in your body. Although you can find cysteine in other protein sources or by supplementing with N-acetylcysteine, in a whey protein, cysteine has a biochemical configuration that makes it easier for us to absorb. Higher levels of glutathione can be very useful in patients with fatty liver, reducing the amount of fat in the liver and lowering transaminase levels in blood tests. Actually, they will be useful in any imbalance between oxidative stress and antioxidant capacity, as we discussed at length in the antioxidants video that I'll leave for you here. Fifth point, better appetite control throughout the day due to a decrease in ghrelin. As I've mentioned in other videos, keeping your satiety levels high is key. It's crucial when it comes to losing weight or not gaining it. Satiety levels are controlled by a multitude of hormones. This is a highly complex matter that is challenging to explain and not entirely understood perfectly, but one of the most important ones is called ghrelin, which increases when we haven't eaten for a while. Leptin, however, signals satiety and is produced when we've just eaten, telling our central nervous system that we're full and shouldn't eat anymore. What happens in obesity is that there is resistance to leptin, and therefore either we don't receive that satiety signal or we receive it with less intensity. Interpreting and knowing how to modify these hormones is key to achieving long-term success. As you can see, losing weight is much more than counting calories in and calories out. It's something more complex. Sixth, it reduces intestinal permeability because of its glutamine content. A large number of diseases start in the digestive tract, this is true. And on the other hand, many diseases that start elsewhere end up affecting the digestive tract, the digestive system. Many authors believe that everything begins with a loss in the barrier function provided by our digestive system. By preventing the entry into the blood of different problematic compounds, such as bacterial elements that would trigger inflammatory responses in the body. Can whey protein really decrease intestinal permeability? Check out this study. The intake of 0.5 grams of whey protein per kilogram of body weight per day. That's about 40 grams for someone who weighs 80 kilos. For a month, it decreased intestinal permeability in patients with Crohn's disease, a condition characterized by high intestinal permeability. The glutamine content, an amino acid that can be taken separately and nourishes digestive tract cells, is responsible for this improvement in intestinal permeability. If you want a video talking only about glutamine and its applications, just let me know in the comments below. And finally, seventh point, better post-workout muscle recovery and also less post-workout fatigue. The better you recover your muscular system after training, the lower your risk of injury and the better your performance will be in the next session. After an intense workout, our muscle strength and physical performance noticeably decrease. Due to central nervous system fatigue, micromuscle injuries, vascular alterations, and other local changes in the muscle, whey protein reduces post-workout strength loss. And how does it do that? Well, it seems that it does this by reducing fatigue at the central nervous system level, which is actually what controls muscle strength. Also by increasing glutathione levels, as we mentioned before, and making it easier for oxygen to be transported in your blood vessels. In other words, not only will it improve muscle recovery, but it can also reduce fatigue levels at the central level, through mechanisms that we don't even fully understand yet. That's why whey protein should be included in recovery solutions after training for amateur, recreational, or elite athletes. That's all for today. I hope you learned something. Please subscribe to support better videos on this channel. A big hug, see you soon, and let's keep empowering.